We got a lot to get to, and we have a lot of great guests coming up as well. And I'm amazed at how freaking tone deaf Democrats are. It's not that they're tone deaf. They're purposely being anti Charlie Kirk at this moment in time right now, where everybody in the nation is talking about this and is sad by this. And it's one thing when you've got these idiot quote unquote entertainers like Jimmy Kimmel being so incredibly tone deaf and lying and being vile. You got Democrat members of Congress who refuse to just vote on a resolution to just recognize a guy who was murdered in cold blood. They purposely vote no. They purposely want to say no. They purposely want to be on the wrong side of that. They do. You know why? Because it's what their base wants. Because we're not dealing with a mainstream political party here anymore. And this is what I've been saying. I've been saying the Democrats need to root out the crazies in their ranks. If they ever want to be a national party again, they have to root out crazy. But they've given a home to crazy, and they're not going to do that. And as long as they don't do that, and they're not going to do it anytime soon, the crazy is going to continue, and they have to keep crazy happy. Because once you let crazy into your house, you got to feed it, you got to clean it, you got to take care of it, like any other house guest. And the Democrat Party has now built their ranks around crazy. And that's the reality. And so the crazies don't want them honoring Charlie Kirk. They want them to be anti-Charlie Kirk, and they want them to lie about Charlie Kirk. And the Democrats are so scared about losing crazy that they'll do whatever crazy wants. And that's where we are at this moment in time. Plus, there was an explosive confrontation on the floor between Rashida Tlaib, she's the non-brother-loving squad member, but also a hideous human being like Ilhan Omar, and Byron Donalds, who really set her straight. I mean, it was glorious to watch. It was glorious. It really was. So we'll get into that as the show goes on today as well. But I want to let you know, all the VIP tickets for the Jack Carr event on October 13th are gone. They're all sold. Boom. There you go. We have general admission seating left, and I highly recommend you get those tickets now because they are selling very quickly. That's our Politics and Pints event, which is coming up on the 13th. It's a Monday night, Columbus Day, I think. Bucks County Community College, Locke Performing Arts Center. So do that today, please, so you don't miss out. That's 1210WPHT.com to see the man, the myth, the legend, Jack Carr, joining us. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be great. Whoops. I don't know why I can't get rid of that. Hang on a second. I hear myself in the YouTube chat. Try to get out of that. All right. So, yeah, please do that. It's going to be a lot of fun. And the other thing I want to mention, too, is that we've got this big rally coming up in Wildwood, North Wildwood, on the pier, October 10th. The overwhelming response to this, which includes us honoring Charlie Kirk and a candlelight vigil for him, the overwhelming response to this has been amazing. Jack Ciattarelli, the Republican candidate for governor, he will be there. He will speak. I think, I was talking to Rooney about this earlier today, there'll be other speakers announced, some of whom you know quite well, but it's not my event, so it's not my place to announce them. But it's going to be a big deal. I do know that Cliff Maloney is going to join. He texted me last night and said that Chairman Mike Donahue had reached out to him, and Cliff Maloney will be there. So the PA Chase, and you heard my interview with Cliff earlier in the week, talking about his dear friend Charlie Kirk. He was one of Charlie's closest friends. PA Chase, they knocked down over 500,000 doors leading up to the election in 2024. They now have they have the New Jersey Chase, and they're going to be out there working to get Jack elected. This is the moment. This is the moment to do this because everybody is excited about taking our country back and winning. And if we can win this, if we can do this, if we can get a victory in New Jersey, it'd be huge. It'd be absolutely huge. It'd be everything we can imagine. We'd send a message to the left. It would not only save New Jersey, but it would also, in a big way, send a message to the Democrats that, you know what? This is a referendum on Trump. You want to make it about Trump, Mikey Sherrill? Then fine, we'll win. And that can be the referendum. So I hope you'll join us for that. That's going to be on the 10th, and I think it's going to be just an absolutely amazing event on the Wildwood board. But you have to sign up because of security reasons. You have to sign up by going to capegop.com, Cape, CAPE, GOP.com, and do that today, please. Josh Shapiro was on with Stephen A. Smith. He was talking about Kamala Harris. So apparently in her new book, Kamala Harris, in one of the chapters where she was drunk or probably stoned, or maybe a combination of both, allegedly, went on about how Josh Shapiro, she didn't want to pick him because he was all about himself. All about himself. Now, I think Josh Shapiro didn't want to be on that ticket. I think the Pennsylvania governor believes he can become president. He's clearly running in 2028. And I think there was no way you were ever going to get Josh Shapiro on that ticket. No chance. He didn't want it. He didn't want to be part of it. He did not want to go down with a losing ticket. That's what I believe. And I think Kamala Harris knows that too. So her ability, her way now of trying to get everybody to hate Josh Shapiro for not running with her is to make it seem like this was Josh Shapiro just being an arrogant SOB. Whereas I think the truth of the matter is that Josh Shapiro was just smart enough to figure out this was a losing ticket for him and a losing proposition. But I also think Kamala Harris is rewriting history because I think the truth is that they were never going to pick Josh Shapiro because he's Jewish. And to get back to my earlier point about crazy, and once you let crazy into your home and what that means, I truly believe that they would not pick Josh Shapiro because the crazies in places like Michigan never would have went along with that because of his Jewish faith. I really believe that. No doubt. So it was a token thing. They met with him. They were never really going to pick him. I think he knew that, but I think he also didn't want to be on a losing ticket. It's like I always say to you, several things can be true at the same time. For example, I have been saying we need to shut down the FCC. We should use this time to shut down the FCC. That has nothing to do with Jimmy Kimmel. So I'm now putting in my comments on YouTube and on Twitter, when I make these comments, I'm now adding, please don't bring up Jimmy Kimmel because this has nothing to do with Jimmy Kimmel. This is an opportunity for us right now to rein in the regulatory state because the Democrats are watching. And they're thinking about when they regain power, and they're thinking that when they regain power, they're going to weaponize the FCC in a way that we can only imagine. And the reaction that I get from people is, well, Rich, they would do it anyway. Okay, so then let's avoid them having the ability to do that by shutting down the FCC. Let's do it. And I tell you what, Brian Brenberg from Fox Business, he said the same thing today. Let's go all the way. Shut down this government regulatory agency and auction off the licenses. There you go. Let it be completely a private sector free marketplace thing, just like streaming and cable and satellite and everything else without government regulation, so that all TV and radio is free from government regulation. Now, I post that and people react and go, Jimmy Kimmel wasn't fired by the FCC. It's not about Jimmy Kimmel. This has nothing to do with him. This is about listening to two things. One, the FCC chairman talking about expanding the power and scope of the FCC, which I got into great detail about yesterday. And number two is Democrats are now watching all this and going, well, when we get back in charge, we're going to start coming after people. And then the immediate reaction to that is, well, Rich, they would do it anyway. Okay, so then don't give them the chance. We have talked about reining in the regulatory executive branch of government for years. That has been our thing. That was a thing where we said we were going to rein in the executive branch. We were going to rein in all these 3-letter and 4-letter agencies that work to undermine President Trump and work to undermine Americans. We were going to abolish these agencies. We were going to doge them away. You remember that? Now I post that and people are like, well, the FCC has a job to do. It's got to make sure that these TV and radio stations are being fair. Well, your definition of fair and Democrats' definition of fair is very different. AOC's definition of fair is very different than yours. And at some point, these people will be back in power and they will come after us. So then when somebody says, well, they do it anyway, well, then take away their ability to do it. Ronald Reagan did. He got rid of the Fairness Doctrine in 1987. And by doing so and getting rid of the Fairness Doctrine, something that had been in place by the Federal Communications Commission for generations, and in the 1960s, A radio company sued over the fairness doctrine, and the Supreme Court held that it was absolutely within the FCC's purview to create the fairness doctrine. And so Ronald Reagan got rid of it. And then Congress passed a law to keep it, and he vetoed that law. What happened after that? After that, a guy named Rush Limbaugh was able to come along and create a nationally syndicated conservative radio show, which was obviously the changing moment in conservative media and conservative radio and launching careers, including my own. All because Ronald Reagan got rid of the fairness doctrine. Now, there's this moment at this time where people are saying, yeah, but we got to own the libs, so we should use the FCC to go after them. How about this? How about own the libs by take away their ability to come after us in the future? You want to own the libs? Take away their ability to come after us. Take away the regulatory mechanisms that they use to weaponize government against Americans who don't agree with them. And I'll tell you something else, too. Not only do I worry about them weaponizing the FCC one day, I worry about them expanding the scope and power of the FCC to be able to go after Spotify, or as Jen Psaki calls it in this clip, Splotify. I worry about them expanding the FCC to be able to go after YouTube and podcasts because they hate Joe Rogan and they hate Tucker Carlson and they hate all these other people. And at some point, I'll be on a podcast. I won't be on radio. It's just inevitable. And then they want to be able to go after that too. So can I see a President AOC in the future standing up there to a Democrat Congress and talking about how it's finally time to update the fairness doctrine, or excuse me, the FCC's mandate to also be able to regulate content on all these other platforms? Absolutely, 100%. They want to expand their power and they want to expand the regulatory state every chance they get. Every chance they get. That's what they want to do. So if you really want to own the libs, in the short run, you may think it's, well, let's use the FCC to go after whatever small radio station or news outlet or... No, the way to do it is to get rid of the regulatory mechanism that the left loves to use by bypassing the Constitution and bypassing Congress and using 3-letter and 4-letter agencies to weaponize government and promulgating rules which have the weight of law. Now, they officially did away with the Fairness Doctrine in 2011 because they were getting old federal regulations off the books. But you know how easy it would be back to bring the Fairness Doctrine back? Absolutely easy. In a heartbeat, they could do it like that. As part of what Brendan Carr, the FCC chairman, has been talking about is the community standards provision of the FCC, which is in their 1934 charter. The community standards. Well, I could easily see a Democrat head of the FCC say, you know, community standards in Philadelphia really require that an AM radio station that's 50,000 watts, like WPHT, should really be including voices of the community and not just a bunch of these conservative hosts who don't really reflect the population of Philadelphia. So as part of our community standards, we're going to mandate that they do more to include the inclusive voices of the community. They could absolutely do that. And they could absolutely promulgate a rule that says that for community standards, you have to have both sides of the issue. They won't call it the Fairness Doctrine. They'll call it something else. And it'll become a rule, and that rule will have the weight of law unless Congress passes a law to undo it. Because until we pass the REINS Act, the rules put down by these 3-letter and 4-letter agencies, they stand as law. And I know that the Supreme Court reined in some of this with Chevron, but they didn't rein it all in. And these 3-letter and 4-letter agencies still have the ability to do this. So then we'll have to challenge them in court, but that could take years. And maybe 5 years or 10 years after that, the Supreme Court will come back and say that the FCC has exceeded its authority. But by then, it might be too late. You probably would have killed this radio station by putting on boring, liberal voices who better reflect the community. You would have gone after podcasters. You would have gone after Spotify. You would have gone after Joe Rogan. You would have gone after Theo Vaughn, whoever else. Tucker Carlson, just pick your person. with the expanded power and scope of the FCC. You would have done these things and you would have turned around and said, wow, all of this was wrong. You would have watched as they did these things and said, all of this was wrong. And it was wrong. But unfortunately, when we had the power to do something about it, we didn't do something about it. We watched and we said, well, let's let the FCC expand their power. And then people turned around and said, well, they would do it anyway to us one day, so why not do it? Versus us turning around and saying, let's strip them of the means to do it. And the FCC, allow these licenses to go on the marketplace, allow them to go up for auction, and let the free market decide. And you get the government completely out of the business. This has nothing to do with Jimmy Kimmel. Nothing. And if you don't think that the Democrats would absolutely love to use the heavy hand of government against people they don't like, who speak on platforms that they can't regulate, that are not subject to the over-the-air regulation of the FCC, I want to take you back in time. This is cut 26. This is a flashback of Jen Snarky at the White House podium urging Spotify to deal with Joe Rogan's lies about COVID-19. Take a listen.
Last week, the Surgeon General also was asked on MSNBC about Joe Rogan's vaccine comments on Spotify, and he said that tech companies have an important role to play in stopping misinformation because they are the predominant places where misinformation spreads. Does the White House and the administration think this is a satisfactory step?
Our hope is that all major tech platforms and all major news sources, for that matter, be responsible and be vigilant to ensure the American people have access to accurate information on something as significant as COVID-19. That certainly includes Spotify. So this disclaimer, it's a positive step, but we want every platform to continue doing more to call out mis and disinformation while also uplifting accurate information. It's a positive step, but there's more that can be done.
Yep. See what I mean? So we have a choice. We can own the libs in the short run by expanding the power of the FCC now and going after these fake news entities that are on the over-the-air airwaves, which are, by the way, losing money and losing audiences anyway. So it's a point of revenge that is completely unnecessary because the marketplace has already decided that these people are losers. Jimmy Kimmel's audience was smaller than mine. It got down to, within the key demographic, a number that's even smaller than this audience on this show. I'm not joking about that. In the key demographic for Jimmy Kimmel, and this is what I mean about the marketplace deciding on these things, in the advertiser-coveted 18 to 49 demo, Kimmel averaged 129,000 viewers in that bracket. 129,000 on a national TV show, and the guy was getting paid $17 million a year and costing the company over $100 million a year to produce that show. The marketplace was already deciding on this stuff. The marketplace has already decided that CBS News at night, NBC News at night, ABC News at night are not worth watching. That's why their audiences are gone. The marketplace has decided that Greg Gutfeld is the king of comedy. It's why he's averaging close to 4 million viewers a night. And losers like Seth Meyers are at about 900,000. So what is the point exactly of weaponizing the FCC to own the libs when the marketplace is already owning the libs? But what we'll do is we'll leave in the wake of that an even more powerful government regulatory three-letter agency that the Democrats will then take and expand to be able to go after people with who they can't reach now with the FCC. People like Rogan, like Tucker, and like all the others for spreading lies and misinformation and disinformation. Because remember, we're talking about lies right now. The left loves the idea that you shouldn't be able to lie and say things that they consider to be a lie. Oh, the left loves it. You heard Jen Psaki say that right there. You got to battle this misinformation and disinformation. These are the people that set up the misinformation and disinformation board led by failed musical theater actress Nina Jankowicz. So let's just get rid of it. Let's end it. Own the libs by taking away their ability to cause harm to the conservative movement in the future. Leave a lasting legacy by getting rid of a 3-letter agency that is completely outdated and unnecessary in the year 2025 and will be even less necessary as the years go on. But that's what the left will use as the imprimatur to be able to turn around and say they have to expand the scope of the FCC. Can't you see it now? Mazie Hirono or one of these other idiots standing on the Senate floor reading a carefully prepared statement by her staff about how, well, the FCC was established at a time when we only had over-the-air broadcasts, but now with cable and all these lying disinformation and misinformation right-wing talk show hosts out there on YouTube, we have to be able to have a way for the government to be able to regulate and monitor them. So I'm here to pass the FCC Expansion Act, allowing the FCC to have the ability to govern streaming, satellite, and cable TV. And then the Democrats pass it, and the Democrat president signs it, and then now they can come for all of us. This is not about Jimmy Kimmel. This is about an FCC chairman making a categorical mistake by trying to expand the scope of his agency when we should be shutting it down. What Brendan Carr should be doing is what Linda McMahon is doing. Matt DeSantis, there you go. There's your title for the opening podcast. Brendan Carr should be doing what Linda McMahon is doing and trying to shut down his own agency, shut down his own department. Now, while we have power, while we're in charge, take away the ability for the left to censor speech in the future. Take away their ability to silence people like me. Take away their ability to mandate that I have to have a liberal co-host. Take away their ability to mandate that community standards include trans rights and climate change and whatever else du jour the left wants us to have to say. Take it away. Just like how Linda McMahon is shutting down the Department of Education, shut down the FCC. Doge it away. Auction off these licenses. Let the free market decide. And hey, maybe we can even cobble together some of our money and buy one. How fun does that sound?